Welcome to episode 51 of Rubbish Talk with myself, Alistair Meldrum.
And myself, Jane Bond.
Dear Jane, does that mean we need to go to episode 100 now? We've reached the 50 mark.
Well, what is the next one? 75? We can have a 75th celebration.
We could have a 75th birthday, or we could decide to retire after.
No, we're never going to retire, Alistair. For goodness sake. We're in the groove now. We've got fancy microphones. We've got fancy platform. We're, good to go. Cooking with gas.
Right. So this week we have Simon Rutledge, who is the Sustainability and External Affairs Manager at Biffa Waste Services. So for the public out there, the big red trucks that you see going down the street. So really interesting chat with Simon. But before we talk about Simon, and with Simon, what have we got this week, Jane? There's quite a bit happening in particularly the UK government. There's things moving.
Well, there is, because we've got a DEFRA announcement on the 29th of November that paper and cardboard will need to be collected separately under the new simpler recycling regulations. I mean, how long has it taken them to make that decision? Realistically, you don't want your paper and cardboard mixed up with your cans and your glass anyway, do you? So anyway, this is positive. So under the simpler recycling regulations, paper and cardboard will need to be collected separate. So everybody needs to separate them. So we'll need 4 bins, because there's going to be food waste, residual waste, paper and cardboard, and everything else, or whatever they're talking about as dry mixed recyclables. So it's also that all the workplaces as well, they've got to separate the dry recyclables starting on the 31st of March 2025. So I like this bit here. It says, from April 2025, the public can report workplaces not adhering to simpler recycling regulations to the Environment Agency. That's quite interesting, because I know of a lot of big organisations that aren't complying with these regulations in Scotland, never mind in England.
It's amazing how far behind this is compared with Scotland. So 2012 we started putting this in Scotland.
Yeah.
So over 10 years, and it's like, and you're right that although it's in place of workplaces in Scotland, there's loads of workplaces not actually implementing this properly. And it's, I think it'll be the usual story. We'll put this regulation in place and then not actually apply it properly.
Yeah, and I guess what do they mean by dry recyclables? That always gets me. What do you mean by dry mixed recyclables?
Well, I think
so many people talk about DMR, and you think, what do we mean by DMR?
Well, I think they're allowing commingling of glass, which we worked out in Scotland over the last few years was a complete and utter disaster. Because if you mix paper and card and plastic and metal and glass, you just end up with really low value recycle it. So I think there seems to be loads of pressure down south about not having too many bins, and it just seems to get really mud. They don't seem to have had a rethink and thought, well, let's go to Wales, let's go to Scotland. They've been doing it for a while before, and let's actually see what's worked in the past. Because I keep going back to South Ayrshire Council. I do have 6 bins, but it's actually really simple. And I'm lucky enough to have the space, but I've got a nice clean bin of glass, I've got a nice clean bin of cardboard and paper, I've got a nice clean bin of plastic and cans, I've got my compost bin, I've got my food waste, and then I've got my residual. And it works, it produces nice quality recycle it, and then you look at what Wales is doing with the curbside sort and so on. There doesn't seem to be much enthusiasm to sort of learn from what other people have learned and what works and what doesn't work. But
yeah, did you see though this Daily Mail
article? that was triggering me big style.
Made me giggle. It really does. Because I think we looked at it and it says current legislation. So you've got 10 separate collections. Well, 10 separations.
The claiming is 10 separate collections, but it's things like electricals, which should be collected separately. We should be taking them for
and
separate
household
collection.
batteries, which should be collected separately as well.
Yeah.
And
So it's things.
textiles, which you should take to your textile bank or to a charity shop.
So it's not as if you're putting that stuff out every single week. You know, you're not chucking out a toaster every week, so it's not exactly a collection. But no, just and then if you scroll further down that article, they've got a residual waste bin, and then they've got into that residual waste bin we're meant to put our vapes, seemingly.
Yeah, I don't think they've quite got it right, have they?
Didn't it quite go well? And I suppose this is the problem. Like, if somebody's reading that and thinking, I need to learn what to do about my waste, they're not going to learn much from that.
No, because it says
and
up
that just
above
adds further confusion.
Says up above that they're bringing in paper and cardboard separately, and then you scroll down and that silly little drawing shows your paper going in your bin with the cans and the plastics and your glass bottles.
Yeah.
I think the Daily Mail need to have a rethink about who's writing these things, to be fair.
Mm-hmm. I think the whole principle of simplifying it and making councils be a bit more consistent about the number of bins and what they collect makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, totally.
That all makes sense, but I think there was something I read, and I was purposely never read it because I knew I was going to have to reply. That was on LinkedIn or something, and it was somebody having a rant about all these different bins and why they should have to put the stuff in different bins and all this sort of stuff. And I'm like, well, if you don't want to put it in different bins, then don't complain if it all goes to landfill or all goes to waste energy. You can't have both, because the reality is these material recycling facilities they're not magic plants. They can't suddenly take all the residual waste and split it into component parts in a cost-effective way. So you've either got to get the householder to do a bit of the segregation, and then the industry can then segregate it out further and recycle it, or you say you don't know, you're not going to bother. But you can't have both things.
Yeah.
But anyway, it'll be an interesting space, because obviously there's lots of work being done here. There's lots of work with councils. There's lots of work with businesses. Lots of different opinions, but it just strikes me as it's going to be interesting how it's applied. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Anything else on bins?
Anything else? Bins? Oh yeah, I was up in Glasgow at the weekend, and I saw Glasgow City Council's communal recycling bins. Or wasn't it just recycling bin? It was the recycling and residual bin hub for multiple tenement properties. I thought it looked quite smart. So a nice bin shelter, nice signage, and quite clear signage in terms of what can and can't go in that. I also saw at one place a communal food waste bin, getting food waste recycling into tenement properties, which is always a bit of a challenge. So if you're lucky enough to live in Pollok, Shields, Hag Hill and Anderston areas of Glasgow, you can utilise that service. So just be interesting to see how well it's used and whether it's abused or not. But well done to Glasgow City Council for making improvements, because it is one of the recycling and tenement properties and flats, and so it is viewed as quite challenging if everybody's not going to buy into it. So
they do look nice, and also having done all that training with the bin men from Glasgow, and them saying that a lot of the problems they have is having to collect bins from back courts and back lanes and up and down steps and everything like that, and it'll make it a lot easier for them in terms of health and safety as well. So yeah, I think it works both ways.
Yeah. Just need to hope that the public actually start taking responsibility for their waste and actually start using the right bins. I keep going back to the guy. I look out my office window, I can see the communal bins that South Ayrshire Council have got out, and there's a guy actually corrects the bins and if there's stuff in the wrong bin, he'll pull it out and put it in the correct bin, and he'll stand there for 15 minutes sorting the bins out. So
good for him.
Fair play to him, I would say. Fair play to him. And then we're back with deposit return scheme. So, but it's not quite as simple as people planned, because it's going to be Scotland, England and Northern Ireland because Wales is pulled out. But for some reason there's going to be two schemes, one in England and Northern Ireland and one in Scotland, which to me just makes absolutely no sense that we can't, if we're going to go down the deposit return scheme, let's have a UK-wide deposit return scheme, not a bit in Scotland and a different bit in England and Wales and so on. But who are we?
Yeah.
Watch this space, I think.
Well, this is DRS take 2, isn't it? Really. So we'll see what happens with this one.
Yeah.
So I've got a one here. This guy here, he was collecting bikes for a charity to Africa in Sudan, and he's collected all these bikes to help people in Sudan who need access to cheap transport. There was a load of bikes there, and I think it looked quite a good idea. He says currently civil war in the northeast African country means there is a lack of resources such as oil and fuel, so bikes have become more sought after. So you think, yeah, great, that sounds like a good thing to do with all these bikes. But SEPA said the shipment couldn't leave the country as an inspector had deemed them unfit for purpose because some of them needed repairs. And you're like, that's such a shame. Apparently some of them weren't quite as, they might have needed a bit of, I don't know, perhaps a bit of oil on the chain or a new back wheel or something. And you think, is that really enough of an excuse not to send them to Sudan if they're for a charity? Or am I being a bit naive?
No, it's been caught up. This is to do with transfrontier shipment of waste, isn't it? So you're not meant to export waste, and the waste electrical and electronic industry is a big problem with this, where you send waste to maybe Africa or whatever, and they're recovering the precious metals in a pretty poor way by setting them on fire and do things like that, and you hear all sorts of horror stories about it. So you're only allowed to export if there's a proven recycling or use for the material. So SEPA must have a reason for doing it, but I know from the work I did out in Congo, if they get how many does it say, 500 bikes?
Yeah.
If they get 500 bikes and some of them need repair, what they'll end up with is 400 repaired bikes, and then they'll end up with parts for another 50 bikes, and then the bits they can't use, it'll be made into wheelbarrows, it'll be made into, wheels for disabled people to get around, the kids with one leg and all that sort of stuff. The improvisation they'll do with things that we consider waste will just be incredible. So I would be fairly comfortable that even if half of these bikes don't work, they would all be utilised. And a certain extent, it's not as if it's hazardous waste we're sending. It's metal bikes with a rubber tyre and some parts. So
yeah, I mean, it just seems such a shame. Yeah, but
I'm not sure what the outcome of it. It was a BBC article, which we'll share the link. I'm not sure if anything's progressed in it, or whether it was simply maybe the paperwork wasn't right or something. But sometimes in these cases, if the paperwork's not right, then they can be deemed to be unfit. So
yeah, I guess so. But yeah, it just seems a shame that now if they have to come back again, they might just be scrapped because there's nobody's wanting them.
We should maybe reach out to Mr. Carter, Nigel Carter, who I presume is doing it as a charity thing rather than a business. I'm not totally sure, but we can see.
He's based in Comrie in Perthshire. I'm sure we can. I'm sure we can sort that out. We can find him.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, this is always the challenge with waste. Does the waste management regulations prevent the waste being reused or recycled? And quite often it does.
Yeah.
So
anyway, what about Albion News, Alistair? Have we got much going on?
The old rubbish talk feed has been overwhelmed recently because we've been putting out all these specials. We've been going weekly recently, so we had I need to get the order right. We had my presentation I did at the Resource in Scotland. That went out on Rubbish Talk, and it went out on YouTube. So if you want to see the slides and so on, have a look at on the YouTube version on Rubbish Talk.
Wow.
We then had episode 50. And then the following week, we had the recording that we did at the Resource in Scotland conference with the early careers. So that one went down well as well. So we've had weekly episodes going out, Jane, without you even noticing.
No, I'm going to have to keep going backwards and forwards in my car so I can listen to them.
You need to keep up.
I do.
And Mia has been working away. What we've decided to do, we never used our YouTube account for a while. So we've actually started posting episodes 1. I think we're up episode 1 to 10. We've now got on YouTube. So if you want to listen to previous episodes and YouTube's your platform, then they're up there, and we'll work our way up and we'll get ourselves caught up. So eventually we will issue on Spotify or whatever your platform is and YouTube at the same time. But
I'm slightly worried. YouTube does not have any kind of like animation or...
We're not doing video yet. We're just putting a wee picture at the front. It's just audio only until we'll prime you, Jane. We'll prime you, Jane, so you can get your makeup ready and all the rest.
I need to cut my hair and all sorts of stuff. And there's the advent calendar, isn't there? That's looking good too.
Mia's putting the advent calendar, so just a wee focus on episode 27 right up to, it'll be episode 51 or 52. We'll do a run up to Christmas. So if you're not listening to any of them, then keep a wee eye out for the Rubbish Talk updates. And if you've not liked Rubbish Talk, then please do so, because we're having a wee bit of a campaign to ask people very nicely to like Rubbish Talk and share it with their pals. So
I saw the last one I was looking at on Facebook, actually. The advent calendar was on Wendy Pring.
Yes.
And her Antarctica trip.
Penguins and Antarctica and sidecar racing and...
Yeah, no, I like that one.
No.
And we've also got, talking about Antarctica, we've had Craig Chandler. So he's on his travels. Not only has he been listening from the Falkland Islands, he's also listened to the podcast from Chile, Santiago in Chile. So we're now up to 55 countries.
So listeners in 55 countries. How many countries are in the world?
Well, I was just going to ask that, but I thought I might look
Mia
a bit down.
Mia will tell us. She'll type it in
Google
for us.
it. Go
the
on,
producer
Google
in the
it.
background of Google it. So 100, is it not 150 or something? 200? I don't know.
We'll have to put the list of places we haven't
55 countries is not bad, though.
I know. So a list of places we haven't had from and see what we can get. Anything else? And
last but not least, we've been doing our Strava challenge. So this is to try and encourage people to get out and about and exercise. So last month it was 10 and 10, so 10 minutes of exercise in 10 days. This month it is 15 and 15 minutes at least and 15 days. The only problem is we managed a bit of miscommunication between myself and Mia, and me forgetting what I'd done. We've actually managed to put that challenge up twice, so you can do it both times. What we have learned is it's only actually people who subscribe to Strava that can see the challenges, and not everybody subscribes to Strava because it costs money. But don't worry, we can see your if you join the Rubbish Talk Strava Club, we can see your entries, and we do try and do a weekly update on who's top of the leaderboard and so on. We have had a complaint from a member of staff. Ruben complained that we were doing the leaderboard on the Friday when the Strava week actually ends on the Sunday. So we're missing all the Saturday, Sunday activities. So we're going to go a week behind now. We're still going to post a wee update on Friday, but it's going to be to the update to the previous Sunday, so we can include people's Sunday activities. But to get to the top of the leaderboard, there's lots of my running pals on it that run lots of miles and lots of times. So you'll need to do quite a lot to get up on the leaderboard.
I must admit, I thought I was doing quite well. Well, no, I didn't, to be fair. I knew I wasn't doing very well because I haven't been on my bike, so I was walking. But I didn't make it for 10 walks, which is a bit sad, actually. But I did do more than 10 minutes in each walk. So I don't know whether that counts.
No, the way it does it, actually, you put it in as although we're saying it's 10 and 10, it actually adds up all the minutes you do.
Oh,
So you
does
can
it?
actually, it's just a time that goes in, so you can actually do it quite quickly.
Okay.
You can set it different things. It's not hugely flexible in terms of how you set these challenges up, but
Okay.
it does. The main thing it does is do a wee leaderboard, so we can see who's doing the challenges and so on.
Well, we've got
So
no chance there. So can we get a wooden spoon one?
We can see who's out there, and it's not to say, Jane, you did dreadful, but you didn't get out. It's just to try and encourage people to get out there. And if you are needing something to listen, then listen to the podcast. So I think that's us. I think the usual message of we've kept this going for 51 episodes. Please help us. Please share it. Please like. Please comment. All that usual stuff. And as I said at the start, we interviewed Simon Rutledge, who is Sustainability and External Affairs Manager at Biffa Waste Services. Biffa's interesting company. They've been on the purchase trail recently as well, so we chat about that. Chat about Simon's background, chemistry, his background knowledge in landfill, and very much a career man with Biffa. Really interesting. Although he's stayed with the same company, he's had lots of different roles within the company. So really interesting chat with Simon. So over to myself, Jane, and Simon.
Yep. Hi, Simon, and how are you? Welcome to Rubbish Talk. I hope you're feeling good today.
Yeah, all good with me, thanks. Really looking forward to this.
Good. Well, we've got lots of questions to ask you. The first one being about who you currently work for and a bit of background about the organisation that you work for. And we'll start. What's the starter for 10?
Yeah, no worries. I currently work for a company called Biffa Waste Services. So we're a UK waste and recycling services provider. Absolutely just based in the UK at the moment, but we have facilities throughout England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. We've got around about 230 locations. And a little known fact is we also have a retail arm. Everyone thinks of us as just the red bins with the red trucks. But we do have a retail arm which redistributes surplus stock as an absolute circular economy process. So it's an amazing business to work for. It's grown a lot in the time I've been with the business. There was a time I think when I pretty much knew everyone. Now with around about 11,000 employees, it's really difficult, and you can't get around all the sites as often as I'd like to. But I spend a lot of time out on sites, and the business is split into a collections business, a processing business, and a specialist services business. So under those three sort of arms, I work at a group level, and I work across the whole business, which is really exciting because I do get to see really, really novel types of activities that are hidden away in little enclaves. So love working for Biffa, and it's a great business with lots of amazing people, and ever expanding. We're always acquiring new bits of business, but also growing, with acquiring new customers. So we've just passed our 1-year anniversary of acquiring the Hamilton's business in Scotland, which was a really, really good acquisition and fit, working in the construction and demolition side of the industry with a lot of collections as well. So I saw that pop up on LinkedIn just the other day. So
did I, Simon. So did I.
So Biffa have been buying quite a lot at the moment, haven't they? Acquiring quite a lot of different organisations, obviously still within the waste business.
Yeah, still within the waste business, other than the retail arm. But even that is, I should say, we don't pull materials out of bins and sell them. We absolutely go further up the chain with our company shop group, who are working with sort of food producers and food distributors, and getting involved at that point in time, so that materials which might have otherwise gone to waste could be, I don't know, the labelling might be incorrect. There might be errors in that. There might need reboxing, or it might just be a broken glass bottle on a pallet, and they'll put it through washing and relabelling to get it out to the members of company shop group. So really, really, really good bit of the business.
That's really interesting. So is it mainly just food in that you deal with in that way, or do you like textiles or anything like that? Is it mainly
Not
food?
so much textiles, but food and other types of materials. Anything that you might find in a small supermarket. I think I bought some over-the-counter medicines there when I was there not so long back. Some Gaviscon, and sorry, other brands do exist, and.
We're not as fussy about that, Simon. You can. Nobody's paying us.
So yeah, I mean, it could be anything. It could be end-of-line materials, but focusing mainly on the all ranges of food, so frozen food, fresh food.
So, I'm sorry, I'm quite interested in this. So, do you take it somewhere? How do you redistribute it? Where is there a? Do you take it into a shop, or do you have it online, or how does that work?
We have a couple of distribution centres, one in Barnsley and one in Leicester, and we partner with the food manufacturers. So the truck will go out and pick it up from the food manufacturer, bring it down back to one of the central locations, and then it gets distributed from there to all the stores, of which, as I say, I think there's around about 14 company shop stores, and then we have a charitable arm of the business called Community Shop, and there's 13 of those. The company shops work on a membership sort of basis with people from the emergency services, teachers, people from food and retail being able to join up. Community shop is completely not for profit, and that really does require a partnership with the food manufacturers, and they will sponsor a site, and that has a small retail outlet. That's for people on means test benefits in a particularly local area, which might have a high degree of deprivation. But it's not just the store there. It's got a kitchen next door which will cook materials and provide free food for children in holidays and things like that. But also a hub for training. So training people on getting them ready for jobs, but training them on cooking and training them on all sorts of things that really add an amazing amount of social value and helps people out. So yeah, there's the two bits of that business that work in conjunction, but the distribution centre follows a same sort of pattern in coming back into one of the main distribution centres and then sort of shipped out on trucks. So we have two in Scotland, one in
I was just going to ask you how
outside
many
of
in
Edinburgh,
Scotland.
and one just outside of Glasgow in Renfrew. So yeah.
Okay.
Sounds good, Simon. Going back a little bit, the collection business, most people I think will recognise the big red trucks from out there. But what about you mentioned the specialist service? What type of thing does that do?
It pretty much does, again, similar sort of collections, but hazardous waste. So it could be tankered materials. It could be curtain siders with dolabs and waste safes. So it tends to be more of that specialist material, which could be liquid, solid. I think we don't tend to deal with radioactives knowingly, but pretty much anything else we'll pick up within our specialist services team. So it's again quite niche in some respects and quite low volume work, but really important to give the customer that whole supply chain service, as it were, for all of that materials.
Yeah. Oh, good. So tell me a bit about yourself. What brought you into the big bad world of waste management? Was it planned or was it a mistake?
I can remember doing a lecture at uni. Polytechnic. I'm old enough to have gone to a polytechnic.
Which polytechnic? You've got to give a shout out to the polytechnic.
I started out at Kingston Poly, which is now Kingston University, and I can remember doing a lecture on landfill and waste management and land raise. But I as you probably guess, it wasn't my first direction. I left work and ended up working in a shoe factory. I worked in the local shoe factory. Great shoes, by the way, in Northamptonshire, and that was really, really interesting. But that was only a fixed term contract, and then I went on to do a master's in environmental pollution control at Derby for a year, and I was up at the Edinburgh Fringe in '93, and I got a phone call from an old colleague from Kingston, and she was moving on from her job as a site chemist, and wondered if I'd want to put myself forward. So I dashed on a coach back to the Midlands of England. I got my CV was on a floppy disk at the time. Got a friend to print it off and tied it up. Went for an interview in Dudley on the Friday, and got the job offer on the Monday, and started working the following week at a landfill site not far from the Crooked House pub, which unfortunately last year was burnt down. But we were at a site literally just at the back of that in Lower Gornal, and I was the site chemist. So I did a lot of monitoring, environmental controls, gas leachate, but also waste testing at the time. We actually did a lot of we had an on-site lab and did a lot of sort of chemistry, taking samples, fairly basic stuff, with a few bits of kit, but it was definitely an interesting time. It was a co-disposal, has waste and non-has landfills back in the day.
You're bringing back flashbacks for me, Simon. I've been asked to sample the tankers that used to go into Greengair's landfill site, and you'd go and you'd open the valve in the back of the tank and take this little sample, and honestly, you had no clue what you were looking at. And I think at the time I was doing the first test was doing a flash point in it, basically, with no safety precautions at the time.
What, you just lit it and see?
Just about. It was literally to put a mouse down. If it blew up, it blew up, sort of thing. But it was just, some of the stuff that used to come in was just, and it'd been running in for years, and nobody had a clue what the composition was or anything. And it's totally changed days now in terms of the testing, and all for the better, But the lack of testing in these days was incredible.
Yeah, we used to get some basic analysis up front, some chemical analysis, and we couldn't accept any liquid waste. It was only solid. So yeah. But yeah, you'd be opening clip-top drums and taking a sample back, doing a quick flash point test and pH, and we had an XRF piece of kit and a little bit of wet chemistry on site. Only fairly basic stuff, but it was all good stuff and a good grounding in the industry to get a real good idea of the range of materials that we have to deal with in the waste industry.
Absolutely. So what landfill site was it, Simon?
Himley Wood, Lower Gornal in Dudley, just outside of Dudley. Great place in the West Midlands.
Because I used to work for Shropshire County Council in waste management. I used to deal with the West Midlands area as well. So I was like, I wonder which one that one is.
Well, I mean, Candles, is it Candles in Shropshire? That was
Candles at Telford.
At Telford, that was the next sort of large site that was would take materials.
Yes, now Candles. That was I was there when it was actually built.
Wow.
Yeah, so that shows how long ago I've been in the waste industry.
I think you're showing your age here, Jane.
I am, absolutely. Yeah. Anyway.
And your first qualification then, Simon, was chemistry then, I take it?
No, it was earth science, but I did a lot of chemistry with my masters, so the pollution control side of things.
So that gave you enough qualification to get started.
Yeah. I always liked chemistry and studied it as at school, and really enjoyed that side of things. So when I spent a year and a bit doing my masters in a wet chemistry lab with lots of really quite good equipment, it was it was great, and enjoyed developing that side of things. Again, a lot of the samples we would take would be check samples that would go off to a full lab, full accredited lab. All the liquids from the groundwater boreholes and the leachate, that would all go off, as well as waste samples, just to check.
Yeah. I always felt I was a bit lacking in the chemistry knowledge when I did that similar type of role. I always felt I was lacking some in there, but I was always pretty hopeless when I did first year university chemistry. I was always pretty hopeless at chemistry, so it wasn't something I wanted to delve into and get more knowledge, particularly.
Well, it was a good basis for me, and from then I moved on to technical sales, so looking at the classification of materials going into sites. So again, having seen it from the actual disposal end to to working with customers on what materials they were producing was
So
was
did
really,
you start
really
with
useful.
Biffa then, Simon? Was that
I
you?
did, yes. I've
You've been there ever since.
I've been with Biffa 31 years.
There you go. There you go. You get less for murder, as they say.
Absolutely. No, it is a good business, but it has changed over the years. So at the time I joined, it was part of a large water company. It's been in sort of third-party ownership. It's been a PLC, and every different business model it throws a different challenges and different opportunities as well.
Am I right in thinking, Simon, it used to be UK Waste?
It acquired part of UK Waste.
Right.
That was some time ago.
No, that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Long time ago. Yeah.
Yeah, there are still some permits held in UK Waste's name.
There you go.
That was a long time ago.
There you go. So in terms of your any favourite roles, favourite projects you had through your journey, or are you doing your favourite role now?
I think I'm probably doing my favourite role now. I mean, I've worked on the health and safety side of the business, on process change. I've worked on the technical sales side of the business. Now, my current role is the sustainability and external affairs manager for the business. So the sustainability is absolutely key, and we put together a strategy and published a strategy back in 2020, which took probably about 18 months to develop. We were still doing all of this stuff prior to that, so we've been measuring and reporting on our carbon emissions for 10 years prior to that. It has changed slightly how we do it, and we've updated the methodologies. But also then, so from the sustainability perspective, reducing the overall impacts of our services, the business, but also working with customers on reducing their impacts. That's been a key work stream. But also then from an external affairs, so I do a lot of the work with government bodies and regulators on policy, up-and-coming policy. And one of the great pieces of work I've worked on most recently was probably the separate collection requirements in Wales that came into play in April this year. So we had a couple of false starts with that. We've been talking about it probably for about 4 or 5 years. But it was great to work with Welsh Government on what the policy was, then with the regulators on that, on how they were going to implement it, how they were developing the guidance and the actual regulations themselves. I also chair the Welsh Environmental Services Association, so I have regular contact with the Welsh market there, and then to work with educating customers about what the requirements were, holding webinars, providing training, internal and external, and then actually launching the services. So we were trying to get people to take the new services well in advance, because as you're fully aware, it becomes very difficult when someone rings you 2 days before a regulatory change and says, "Can I have 5 more bins, please?" or whatever it might be. We were engaging probably with a project team potentially 12 months in advance of that, but then seeing it through from policy to actual service delivery. There were hiccups on the way. We didn't potentially have enough bins up front for the demand. So we were distributing bags for different recycling streams the week before, and trying to order lots more containers. But again, we've had similar sorts of things when we introduced mandatory recycling and food waste collections in Scotland. Similar sorts of programs. You plan as best you can, but what tends to happen is people leave it to the last minute, and all of a sudden you get a rush of demand, which you have to try and meet. And I'm pleased that the operational teams in Wales did a really good job. And it was a big change, so we had to change some of our sorting stations and our transfer stations, to put extra bays in, all of that sort of thing. It looks
so have you got a lot of collection services then in Wales?
No, just a few down in the south of the country, and a municipal contract up in Anglesey. The municipal contract was already fully compliant. That's the Welsh local authorities have done a lot of great work in implementing changes in policy, and Wales is number 2 in the league table of countries for recycling, which is great.
Yeah. Well, I was down in Paris last week and they didn't pick up the bins in Paris because it was snowing.
That's a perfectly good excuse, Jane. The vehicles aren't magic.
For goodness sake. You know, a little
Yeah,
bit of snow.
I confess weather does get in the way, but the safety of the crews is paramount, and we'll park them up where absolutely necessary.
I did. It was the last week or something when the bad weather was out. There was an operational person from my council saying, "Do the public not know if they can't drive their car around the streets, how the hell are we going to drive a 20-odd ton lorry around the streets? That's why your bin's not been emptied."
Yeah.
Yes. So you've said about your favourite role, which is the one you're in about now. What about any really bad roles or any disasters or anything funny that's happened while you've been, working your way through all these different types of wastes and monitoring them and sampling them and all sorts of stuff?
Yeah, I guess, touch wood, there's not been too many disasters. I did have one incident where I was writing an environmental report to submit to the regulators, and I was talking about having visited all these boreholes on the perimeter of the site. And it was when, I think we just changed from a version of word process to an updated version. And we had these new things called spell checks, and I for some reason I didn't look at it particularly careful.
I think I know where you're going.
Auto-corrected to brothels.
Yeah.
So we submitted a report to the regulator to say how I had been visiting all these brothels on the perimeter of a site, which luckily back in the day you could sort of have that conversation. They saw the funny side of it, and it was corrected and resubmitted. So I hasten to add I'm not a frequenter of brothels at all.
Not around the outside of landfill sites anyway.
Not at all.
Brilliant. I like that. I do like that one. So how do you think your role, you've always been in your role for a long time, do you think your opinions and habits have changed out with your workplace? Or does everybody know you're the environmental man and just accept that?
I think I've certainly developed. We've moved away from being a landfill business to really adopting sort of circular economy thinking within the business, and the business model has changed. Landfill is still there, and it underpins for many materials, asbestos and treated land and things like that need to be disposed of, that can't potentially be disposed of any other way, or taken out further up the waste hierarchy. But the business has absolutely developed its other service offerings, and working with customers is just absolutely great. I think I am a bit of a waste geek. I'll confess to that. I do annoy my family by going through their recycling bins and correcting any errors. I did get when I lived in my old house, the worst thing ever was when I got one of those yellow labels on my recycling container.
Oh, you didn't, Simon?
I did.
What for?
My wife had put some coat hangers. Some coat hangers had gone into the recycling, and clearly they were polystyrene and not recyclable. But when I'm away on holiday, I'm always sniffing out recycling centres and waste sites and pointing out where the nearest food waste treatment plant is. But also, absolutely, most of the family will contact me if they've got any recycling questions, which is often quite difficult because they live in different bits of the country, and you have to do a little bit of research to try and help and assist. But I think we've changed the way we work a lot. We do a lot more work remotely. I still go out to face-to-face meetings and really enjoy that. I love the management board at CISA and really enjoy a few trips up to Scotland and catch up with the operations teams there, as well as the regulators and the policymakers. So, but probably a lot less than I would have done, 5 years ago or even pre-COVID. We as a team were the first, the sustainability team and the health and safety team at the time were the first to introduce remote working in Biffa and lots of Teams meetings at the time, or Zoom as it was. That was really continued. We still like to get into offices because you cannot get away from those sort of water cooler moments and those sort of off-the-cuff discussions where you bump into someone that you haven't seen for a while and you share an idea, that is absolutely essential. But we don't tend to drive as far for meetings as we probably do, and a lot more of the meetings are dealt with in a short period of time, just face to face on Teams and other remote sort of meeting calls. So yeah, I've definitely changed my views, and I'm absolutely a champion of both sustainability and waste management within the family and people that we come across. So one of the things that's really great is some of the customer interaction we have, but also schools and education visits. I was in County Durham on last Friday, and we had a polymers study tour. So we took some secondary school teachers. It was organised by the IOM3, and they'd set it all up, but it was free to a group of teachers, supported by sponsorship, to come and visit a variety of different facilities, including our CM PET recycling site. And it was great to get that interaction with the educators of the next generation. And again, I go out on school visits regularly and talk to, probably get the worst grilling ever from secondary
from
school
young
students
kids
and young kids. Absolutely. They often understand it and often want you to be doing more and really pushing businesses and can't understand why things probably take some time to change the way people behave. And it is about behaviours and changing people's behaviours to actually reduce the amount of waste they're producing.
No, absolutely. I'm going to pull you back there, Simon. You used an acronym,
I was going to say that as well.
for your facility. I can't even remember CM something.
Oh, CM was the little town that it's in.
Oh, right, okay.
But I might have mentioned PET, which is the type of plastic.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, I thought the two of them ran
together.
So did I. CM PET. I was thinking I've never heard of that.
Yeah, no. CM's the ex-mining village on the coast of County Durham. Where
I think there was IOM3 or something.
Yeah, that's the Institute of Minerals, Mining and Materials.
I saw that. I did actually see that in your LinkedIn, actually. So,
and I apologise to IOM3 if I've got that the wrong way round.
Yeah, there you go. I could put you in the test at the spot and say, what does PET mean? That was about me.
Yeah.
Polyethylene terephthalate.
There you go. I was trying to remember myself. That's why I asked you, Simon. Normally, the CISA meetings, you're the one sitting in the corner with a laptop on giving us the answers.
Well, I do try. But again, that's probably from re-educating myself and constant training. So I sat in the presentation last week and learned a lot about the uses of plastics that I probably didn't know previously. I get involved in the recycling of it, the collection, the sorting of it. But actually hearing what people do with the materials was really, really interesting. And one of the challenges we had was to debunk all of the acronyms. And as an industry, we do have probably far too many.
Well, that was one of you were at the Resource in Scotland conference a couple of weeks back, but one of the comments some of the newer members made to me was there were so many acronyms and it was almost assumed we should know them.
Yes.
And as someone we've got really conscious, especially if we're speaking or whatever, is to actually do that first. The thing you were taught at university, to write it out in full the first time you use it.
Correct, yeah. It was interesting at that event, there was a teacher talking about how they'd been working with timber, and the three of us from the industry thought timber was going to be an acronym for something specific, but it wasn't. It was actually just wood.
Talking about timber, there we go. So, busy life, Simon. How do you get away from it? How do you relax and get away from work? Or do you?
I do on occasion. I'm an avid follower of rugby. I have a season ticket and I have had for a number of years at Leicester Tigers. They're my local team. Are
they doing well?
We've been in a break for the autumn internationals, but we were doing all right. We've had a couple of ropey seasons. But yeah, we're coming back this season, and I'm relatively confident we'll be up and around the playoffs of the league by the end of it. My son, he plays rugby for a local team in Ashby-de-la-Zouch, and I'm the team first aider, and I've spent a lot of time on touch lines patching the teams up, which is always interesting.
That must be a bit scary sometimes, isn't it?
his mum's been along to a couple of matches and has been banned because she was shouting too loudly whenever he got hit from behind or tackled, perfectly legally, but overly protected potentially. That and I like cycling. So whilst I'm not cycling and swimming, whilst I'm not particularly built for cycling, I do love hitting the trails in the summer on a mountain bike and heading out on the road, trying to get a bit fitter, lose a bit of weight on a road bike. So that's pretty much all I've got time for: family, rugby, and cycling.
That's not too bad.
That's plenty.
And lots of work. Yeah, sorry, that's all I do in my spare time.
Yeah, that's not too bad a mixture. What about your current role? What are you trying to achieve in your current role, and what's next for you? Looking forward to the next 5 years or whatever.
Well, it is a really exciting time in the industry where we're facing a tsunami of legislative change, and some of it is we've been talking about for a long while, and we just need to get done. Not just legislative change, but circular economy strategies and delivery on circular economy. So all of that, and I think we're coming to a really exciting time where we can start to ramp up on waste avoidance and recycling rates and get them out of the doldrums that they're currently in. But from a sustainability perspective, our sustainability strategy is 5 years old, going to do a refresh at 5 years. So we're just working our way through that with the sustainability team in the business, as well as reaching out to stakeholders and the stakeholders doing a materiality assessment, trying to find out from customers where there are things have moved on in the 5 years. I read back at the strategy, which probably took us 18 months to put together 5 years ago, and some of the KPIs we have now do absolutely need a refresh. And we did have the company shop group business at the time, so we had nothing on redistribution within our strategy. But clearly, we'll make sure the new one has something along those lines. But the strategy was really good at helping us focus. So we put it in targets for sort of carbon reductions. So 30% carbon reduction of the business by 2025, and 50% by 2030, and net zero by 2050 at the very latest. And I'm pleased to say we published a sustainability report just about a month ago that we were already overachieving on the 2025 carbon reduction target. So we're going to have to relook at that and refocus. From a policy perspective, ETS is looming large. So emissions trading scheme, and that's going to be a real big driver, I think, on the business. So asking people to recycle more is absolutely the right thing to do, and it makes absolute sense. But making it more expensive for them not to is the carrot and stick approach, I think, will be fundamental in changing people's behaviours. So we're currently working through lots of discussions with government bodies, DESNES, and some Department of Energy Security and Net Zero.
Well done.
And similar government bodies to look at what that's going to look like and how that's going to be levied. How energy and waste facilities are going to end up measuring their carbon emissions, looking at what is fossil carbon, what isn't, and how that bill then gets passed back through to the consumer, be that the householder through their local authority charges or through to the offices or the commercial businesses that we service. So I can see there's going to be a lot there, different types of recycling systems. So simple recycling for England, potential refreshes in Northern Ireland, implementation of circular economy strategies in Scotland and throughout the UK is really key. So plenty for me still to get my teeth into, I think, Jane.
Yeah, that sounds like quite a range of stuff for you to do. And I suppose, over 5 years from when you did the strategy 5 years ago to now, there's a lot of change. There's been a lot of change, hasn't there? So you must be able to see when you look back how things have changed and morphed into something else.
Yeah, absolutely. So the landfill business has shrunk. It is a smaller business. Still, as I say, essential underpinning of the whole industry, but only making sure that the right materials are going there and other materials are diverted. We have an innovations team now, so one of my next meetings this afternoon is with the innovations team, looking at niche and new types of activity that might turn into a business idea at some point in the future. The industry probably 5 years ago was still quite sluggish and not particularly innovative. And I think we've all learnt that you either innovate and change, or you die out. So it's absolutely key that we're working with that change. We don't want to be necessarily right at the cutting edge either, because we've often seen some white elephants in the industry around there, and often the first adopters do sort of catch a cold because of that. But being absolutely aware of those innovations and what's happening and trying to build those into the into the business model is really key.
I was always told, Simon, being second in innovation was the best place to be, because the first one often failed.
And you learn by their mistakes.
And you learn by the mistakes and followed on behind.
Yeah, be at the leading edge rather than the bleeding edge.
Yes.
That
sounds good.
So is there any fact you want to share from your job or your sector you think people might be interested or might not know at the moment?
Well, I think I did look. I was at a polymers recycling plant just last week, so spent a couple of days up there, and one of the facts I heard then, which was really quite interesting, was that around about 80% of milk bottles in the UK will have at least 30% recycled content that comes from our Biffa Red Car facility.
Really?
So HDPE,
wow.
identity polyethylene, turned from milk bottles, cleaned, sanitized, goes through a vacuum process to make sure there's no contamination, and then processed back into flake and pellets that go back into milk bottles. And they reckon that takes around about a month from you buying it on the shelf to you sitting it in your fridge for around about a week, to putting it in your bin. Bin gets collected 1 or 2 weeks later, and we'll sort it and process it in a materials recycling facility, and then onto a plastic recycling facility, then onto the polymers plant. So yeah, I thought that was quite an interesting fact, and I think we often don't necessarily talk about those sorts of things, where we're actually turning materials back into materials and getting them out in the market.
So in a month's time, I could be buying back a bit of the plastic bottle I bought today.
You almost certainly will be.
I was going to say, Simon, and over time, that 30% will be a larger and larger. So if your bottle at the moment is 30% recycled, if you keep doing that, and I think with plastic, am I right in thinking with plastic, you can keep doing that? It's not like paper and cardboard where it diminishes.
There is a limit. There is a limit, because the polymer, there is a breakdown in polymer. But
I had a bottle of water the other day that said on the side that it was 100% recycled content, and I did sort of hesitate at that and wondered if that was correct, but it was. I think I've probably still got it, actually.
Yeah, no, there are some manufacturers using it in its pure recycled content sense, we can absolutely see the increase in the take-up of recycled content. It probably might be nice if the plastics packaging tax was moved on a little bit more than it has been. I mean, we saw this with landfill, didn't we? When it was introduced in '97, landfill tax was at a very low level. It's really ramped up, and behaviours changed because of that. And again, plastics packaging tax, we're 2 or 3 years in now. It'd be nice to see that ramp up as well, which may push on the adoption of recycled content. It's a difficult balance, because obviously the cost of virgin plastics linked heavily to the price of oil. Price of oil has dropped back, and therefore the cost of virgin plastics dropped back.
It's cheaper. Yeah,
it's cheaper. That is a market mechanism that you can't necessarily adjust to when you've got the fixed costs of collection, sorting, recycling, and processing. But we're working our way through that, and as I say, lots of off takers are taking the material and turning it into food grade material, selling with the milk bottles and our Seon plant where we process PET. That is also food grade material going back into food.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not there yet with all materials. So films and flexibles are going to be problematic.
Yep.
Still are. And we're way off potentially getting sort of chemical recycling up and running, which I know our innovations teams are looking at and our experts are looking at. But we do need that to progress in order to get food grade polyethylene, LDPE, low density polyethylene back into food grade supply. So there's still plenty of work to do.
Lots of work there. So we're going to change tack slightly here, Simon. We're going to ask you for your favourite piece of slang or dialect or expression, either maybe from where you come from or maybe your early part of your career, or entirely up to you.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to think back. I mean, back in the Black Country, it was a language to itself. So, Muckaway and Cartaway was common for contaminated land or just muck shifting. But we do use so many acronyms. One of the early ones that baffled me was RORO and RORO bin, roll on, roll off. But it doesn't seem necessarily to be particularly obvious. Yeah, it's interesting when you move around the country how things change and things slang alters. So in Leicestershire we have things called jitties, which is the passage between the houses where you go and fetch the bin from at the back. Whereas in Manchester we have ginnels, and in further south we have alleyways. So it's amazing how these sort of localised areas to change things.
In Scotland, you would have a close.
Yeah.
Of course.
Close,
Yeah.
that's what you'd be up here. So there you go.
I was trying to remember, but just silly things like a cob in Leicestershire is a breakfast roll or a sandwich, whereas it's a small brown horse in the southeast.
The one that gets me is this pancake. No, is it pancakes?
Barn cake.
The savoury. Is it pancakes? Down Stoke-on-Trent way, they have
bread cakes or bread. Yeah.
No, it's
oat cakes.
It's like a oat cake. Is it oat cakes?
Oat cakes.
Yeah, it's oat cakes, but they're soft like a
pancake.
Yeah. That's the one. That's the one that always does my head in.
Not a million miles away from here.
So I'm going to give you a magic wand, Simon, to sort some waste management problem out that you think would be wonderful if you could sort out. What would you like to use it for?
I think there's got to be a real big focus on illegal waste disposal. The criminals are getting away with it far too easily at the moment. And, it's kind of heartbreaking when, we do a lot of work with biodiversity. We do a lot of work with charities. I'm really lucky to be able to sit on the board of Biffa Award, which is our Landfill Communities Fund. We talk to wildlife trusts and similar. And when you see, 30,000 tonnes of waste disposed of in a triple SI in Kent, it's just absolutely mind-boggling that it's allowed to happen, allowed to progress as much as it is. That would be my magic wand. I don't know how we do it. We've got to properly resource the regulators. We've got to have people that are brave enough and a joined up regulation where multiple services deal with things in a fast and efficient manner. Getting rid of that criminal element out of the industry is where I'd like my magic wand waving.
That's a good
Good
one.
answer.
Right,
Good
that
answer.
one.
Even down from I have gotten into trouble occasionally by sort of picking up people's litter as they've dropped it and passing it back to them, because again, just low-level littering, it's just needless. Most people have pockets. You can put it in your pocket, take it home, recycle it, and deal with it at home properly. Local authorities provide litter bins. I know not as many these days as there used to be around, but it really does boil the blood and infuriate me when you just see that. Throwing things out of car windows. That happened last week, and I saw it. There's not a lot you can do other than toot your horn at people, but it's that then puts people at risk because someone's got to go out there and clear that up. And if we don't get it, it's lost into the environment and potentially causing problems. So that's if we could crack that nut, it really would be positive.
Okay, that's definitely going on our list then. And finally, this is your last question, Simon. You'll be glad to hear. What advice would you give to the younger generation who are coming into the sector? Who want to see where you are and think, I want to get there. What would you say to them apart from turn around from going to Edinburgh Fringe with your CV and knock on the door?
Oh dear. No, I think these days in careers, I think being flexible is absolutely key. Expecting change is key, because the industry is not the same as I started out in, thankfully, and things have moved on, and for the better. The business I've worked for 30 odd years has changed immeasurably, and I think people should keep learning. I've been really quite lucky. One of the reasons why I got into the policy side of the business was because Biffa sponsored me to do a Master of Laws degree. So I studied environmental law and health and safety law at Montfort Union in Leicestershire, and I think that then gave me a different slant on where I was going from the technical sales and the chemistry side of things to really looking at regulation and policy, and from working in the environmental field and moving into sustainability, I've never lost the love for those policy discussions that we have to try and change the regulatory framework and push real change throughout the industry. So yeah, I think you've got to be flexible. You've got to expect change and keep learning. But reach out to people. I think through organisations. I'm a big supporter of CIWM. I've been a member for a number of years, and I was a graduate. Started out as a graduate member and went straight through. So you can really learn a lot by joining those sorts of organisations or getting involved in those sorts of organisations that can give you a real breadth of experts to talk to. I think keep learning. Absolutely keep learning. Every day is a learning day, and as I say, last Friday I was sat learning alongside the teachers, learning about how they need to inspire the next generation. The particular topic they were talking about was plastics shouldn't be demonised. There's a lot of good uses for plastics, but we shouldn't be wasting any resource, and we certainly shouldn't be wasting plastics. So keep learning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good one.
Sounds like a good message to me, Simon.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's all our questions. Just from me, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much.
Fascinating chat, and to learn quite a bit more about Biffa. I never knew all the different parts of Biffa as well, so thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
No worries at all.
Yeah.
And I'm probably going to be shouted at by someone because I'll have forgotten a little bit of the business somewhere,
exactly.
and I'll be in trouble. But no, it is a great business, great industry, and it's really good to chat to you about it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.